there. So that's been corrected. Senior Vice President in Mani Africa. Great. So, gentlemen, you heard them. Obviously, you have your own views. Professor Gachi, I'll start with you on this one. Yeah. I mean, Ponzi schemes clearly not a new phenomenon in Ghana. So, question is, why do people still continue to fall prey or be vulnerable to this kind of phenomenon?
Well, there are many factors, and I must say that the law alone is not enough to stop Ponzi schemes in Ghana. If that were to be the case, I do not think that we would have recorded the first pronounced Ponzi scheme in the 20s. I wouldn't have recorded the recent one in the US regarding Bernard Madoff. Yeah. Wouldn't have recorded those in such environment where laws are respected. So yes, the laws are very important. Regulators are very important to stop it. But even the structuring of the regulatory institution can contribute to the spreading of Ponzi schemes within the country. So we also need to look at how we structure the regulatory institution and environment to respond to these things. Who are the people I'm saying this because if you study about the 2008-2009 Ponzi scheme that erupted in the US in the person of Bernard Madoff. Madoff was one time the chairman of NASDAQ. Then he also became the chair of Securities Industry Association. His brother became the chair after him. So you could see the position they held in the regulatory environment of that association. Remember, the company that was run by Madoff was actually Wall Street registered company. Right. So it seems to me sometimes we think that Ponzi schemes are entities which are not registered, who are not under the regulatory arm of the regulator, but that is not wholly true. So we will need to look at the regulatory environment and those we put in the regulatory institutions. That is very, very important. If you put related parties in regulatory institutions, you have problem in the future because you cannot clearly know what they are doing and what they are hiding after some time. Remember, if you take Bernard Madoff case again, this was reported around 1999 to be investigated, but it was not possible because of the way
the connections
were until around 2008 and 2009. So I think that we need to look at the packaging of the regulatory regime, the people we put there, and the environment. Now, beyond that, we need to look at our social structure and our culture. Our social structure is such that in finance, those things lead to what we call behavioral finance. Now, where virtually we follow people who are supposed to be leaders in society, our pastors, our religious leaders, people who are highly educated, our ministers, our MPs. Now, if you check those things that we are calling Ponzi schemes, you will record that the nature of people who participated in Piram and Arafat are the same group of people who participated. You will see educated, you will see people working in regulatory institutions like Bank of Ghana and co. I have met people who are military men who participated in these schemes. So it has not changed. Why? Because when people see their pastor or their religious leader, in fact, in some cases, some pastors are their marketers. So that is the reason why it is very difficult to just say because there is a law in the law books, therefore it will stop it. No. We need to look at the social structure in our culture and belief, where the moment the person is educated, whether he's educated in financial literacy or not, whatever he's doing, people will follow. So I think that is the reason why Ponzi scheme will continue to be with us, and that's the reason why it is it is happening in even advanced countries. So I think we need to look at. So, and for me, we have not actually engaged in concerted and effective education. We have not taken it as a serious project, where the average person have some signals that should tell them that this is a scheme that I need to ask further questions from people who have the knowledge.
Right. Before we go into that, is it the case also that, I mean, there are people who think that this whole thing has been around for some time now, that people now understand the workings of it. So they know if we get in early, we'll be able to cream some, and then, so they get in early and try to. So is that a possibility? Do you share in that line of thinking, that people perhaps now understand how these things work, so they also get in there just to have some returns before it comes crumbling down?
Unless you want to think that Ghana is all about TV3 and Accra. There are a lot of people across the country who don't know what is going on. In fact, there are a lot of farming communities and rural economy who depend on some of these things, but they are not aware that these institutions or these entities they are dealing with are involved in Ponzi scheme. So there is no effective education in the country. So if you want to do effective education, just as a pastor would take a Bible and preach for people to be converted and live a certain life, why can't we structure the education in such a way that even in our churches, our mosques, there should be a time for some kind of these things to be but
the pastors themselves are going into
yes, but if there is a structure that we want to ensure proper education, the regulator, the Ministry of Finance, the government, and all the associations that want this thing to be dealt with will come together and draw up a roadmap as to how this education will be integrated into some of these religious bodies. Because that is where people hear a lot from. But financial literacy doesn't take place in most of these places. Right,
and the fact that you may be educated in general terms, you may not necessarily be financial literate. That's what you're saying.
There are times when you are teaching even your graduate students, it takes time to convince people that this thing is wrong.
Right.
So it's not just about you are educated, you are a professor, you are a doctor, you are a chartered accountant, etc. You need to be brought to that knowledge. And look, this is the feature of a Ponzi scheme. When you see it, go
you
back.
Run away. Dr. Mr. White, clearly the incidence of these kinds of schemes have been, increasing, if you like, and we do know that perhaps over a space of 20 years, we've had, these things come and go over certain, periods. And it not only do they cause loss of money, but also loss of lives, because some people would invest so much. Well, that's appreciated, Prof.
Thank you very much. As to whether government can rescue depositors or customers of what we call Ponzi scheme, is relative. I do explain earlier on that there are Ponzi schemes who are not regulated, they are not licensed, so it is very clear. The only responsibility towards us by the regulator is to alert us that there is a Ponzi scheme. They are not under our regulatory control. So if you go there, you go at your own risk. So that is very clear. But we shouldn't shy away from the fact that there are regulated institutions that engage in Ponzi schemes. And when they do, there is no way the regulator, and for that matter, the government will say, I will not rescue them, because perhaps those institutions would have been covered by Depositor Protection Act, which they have contributed to as an insurance to cater for some of these problems when they do occur, to rescue depositors of those institutions. They have paid minimum capital, which is supposed to serve as a buffer for such risk. So you can't blanketly say that when an institution or an entity engages in Ponzi scheme, you can't pay depositors. So we need to draw the line. Then again, we also need to solve or attempt to be solving what I call ideas chasing funds. We have ideas throughout the country, in our rural economy, and in the economy in general. Many people have ideas, they have businesses, they are looking for funds. So you see these people getting closer to them. Things like DKM and you see the enclave they were operating, agrarian rural economy, where traders get access, proximity, all those things. So we need to be fashioning out how we are going to cater for this phenomenon where we have ideas chasing funds. And when people have ideas, they are ready to work, and they are not getting the fund, they'll be attracted to some of these things. Thank you.
Very well. So clearly then it's an issue of how the economy in general is dealt with. Because if people or entrepreneurs or people who are trying to start up businesses can access loans at competitive interest rates, then there will be no need necessarily to be going in search for certain schemes that seem very attractive in their returns as against the risk.
I think that's not the point I'm making. See, we confuse things in this country. See, it is not possible for young people or our entrepreneurs with very good ideas to go to banks and take money to do that. There is a need for the state to fashion out a fund that can support people with ideas to start their initial business.
A fund?
Yes. It is done everywhere. Why did we bring on board venture capital fund in around 2004, thereabout? Why?
But it's not also out of place for people to go to banks to borrow.
Yes, you see, there's a time that you go to bank. You can't say you have an idea and then all of a sudden you're going to bank. It becomes very difficult unless you're supported by maybe a government project, etc. So that distinction should be there. So when we are fashioning out how to finance ideas in the country, we should know that it is very difficult for startups to go to banks to take loan. So how do we cater for that? I think we are doing very little to cater for that. And the NDC, I think they have some $10,000 for you young entrepreneurs. That is the end. But that's not how you do it. Under this regime, I think they also have something like that. I don't know the amount. Yes. But that is not a solution. So we should be very serious about how we can cater for entrepreneurs. In fact, the awareness of entrepreneurship has gone up, and a lot of people are willing.
Because they can't really start.
They can't really start. So what are we doing about that? It's a vacuum. I think that's what I'm referring to.
Very well. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll have the closing remarks from Mr. Chum, and then we'll go look at to a more sustainable one.
Well, I think the starting point should have been, and I'm saying this because youth unemployment or graduate unemployment is a serious matter, not only in Ghana but across the developing world, including Africa. So it's a serious matter. And I do think that this is a mistake that successive government have made, and this government is also making the same mistake. Now, when you are voted as a government, the moment you are so into office, you need to flag some issues to be national in nature. And when you are going to engage in them, it becomes national. So I was thinking that there should be some sort of national engagement as to how we are going to treat national youth unemployment in the country. Of course, the government is in power. They have promised people they need to deliver. But it should have been better if we have looked at it from the eye of national engagement so that we know the way forward. You will realize that the president indicated quite clearly that the process is about training them, which means that looking at our young people complete school 2 years, 3 years in the house without doing something, it brings psychological problem. It creates problems in the family. In fact, in some homes, they don't understand why others got job you don't have. So there are a lot of things that going on. Just to save the situation, we have this intervention. So I clearly look at it from intervention point of view. But the point that the president made was that after 3 years, they will transition into permanent world of work. Now, the reason why we are having this discussion is because our economy is not able to provide the jobs. And we have not done much to allow the economy to accommodate such numbers. So the question is, where is the world of work that after 3 years, these people will be transitioned to? That is an issue we need to be dealing with. So if you have a policy, then we'll see how this policy integrate with other broader national policies that will help these people. If not so, what will happen is that what happened in the past, I think the YEA or so, they have in, out, something like that. We may have a serious situation. And again, I'm wondering whether our graduates need 3 years training before they get what is needed to get to the world of work. Clearly, I don't think so. So it's not very clear to me beyond this engagement what is going to happen. And that answers the sustainability. The sustainability is not only in terms of whether we get money every year or every month to cater for, but the sustainability is in terms of whether the jobs will be available. We are managing an economy which is virtually concentrated on the natural resources, which is not able to deliver. If you look at the current GDP figures posted by Statistical Service, it's very clear the financial services, which in the past has been able to accommodate a lot through proper engagement and through contract workers, is going down. The same thing applies to all the services sectors. So I think we should be worried about the sustainability, not only in terms of funding. So those are the preliminary comments that I want to make. I consider it as intervention. The young people, they need this at least for some time, but to indicate that you are going to give them training, graduate, first degree, some of them even masters, you are going to give them training for 3 years before they can transition to the world of work. I think there is a problem with that orientation, and we need clarity on that.
Very well. Now, Professor Gashi.
Well, I was restricting myself from this IMF thing, but I think we need to put it in the right perspective. I think the IMF program was very clear. The freeze on employment was also very clear, but there was a very clear provision in the IMF document that allow for engagement in education, health, the security sector.
But even that, they didn't do it.
Excuse me. Yes, I'm happy they didn't do it. And the reason is very clear. Because your economy cannot accommodate people to those areas. That is why you couldn't do it.
And that led to, increase the backlog.
Yes, that's it. So that is why the issue should be discussed beyond just the stopgap measure. So I think we need to put that in the correct perspective. And the question is, will you pack maybe 20 people in a single room? You can't do it.
It depends on the size of the room.
Yeah, the normal size. So the size of your revenue can only accommodate a certain number of people in the public space. Yeah. So if we do all these things without properly raising the revenues that we need, without expanding the economy, of course, our economy has been expanding. I have not witnessed any shrinking of the economy. What happened in the past was that the rate of expansion reduced. But that does not mean that the economy reduced in size. So the economy keep on expanding. But the revenue to support the expansion of the economy in terms of taking more people to the various sectors is the problem. So we need to work on that to make all this transition issue beneficial. as I stated earlier on, you know, we have a very nice program called Planting for Food and Jobs. And that program was supposed to engage about 175,000 young people, but we had some problems. The young people could not get lands, so they are not effectively participating in the program. So I'm wondering what specific thing that these graduates are going to do in the area of agric. All this need to some redefinition for us to get the proper picture, because I do know when you meet young people, you meet agriculture extension officers, and you question them. These are the things that they put on the table. That even though the program was meant to engage young people, the young people are not actually participating because of these limitations. So if we want them to participate effectively, these are the background work we need to do before our young people can actually benefit. Other than that, as we are saying, it's just an intervention. We just want to keep them psychologically stable, etc. That's fine, but we need more work to do.
Very well. Dr. Chris, if you could, can you wrap up for us? We move on to the next topic. Yes.
Thank you. I think that there are many more issues about this, really.
What I know is that normally when PIAC does its work, it calls what we call validation meeting. So all the people who are affected by the report will clarify, and the things that they need to take out of the report, they do so. Now, what it means is that the Ministry of Finance has actually failed to participate in the validation process. Mind you, the Ministry of Finance is the institution, or the state institution ministry that is in charge of ensuring the implementation of the Public Financial Management Act. Remember, per Article 175 of the Constitution, petroleum revenue is part of the public funds. Definitely. And all the rules governing public funds need to apply. This situation is troubling. Troubling not because it involves Ministry of Finance and PIAC. But the point is, petroleum revenue are supposed to be audited by the Auditor General. The Ministry of Finance is also supposed to publish their report. There is supposed to be a reconciliation account that ought to be published and submitted to Parliament. If in all these reports, this report and all these workings from Auditor General, etc., and the oversight of Parliament did not figure out what happened to that money, then it means there is a serious problem. So that is my view on this. But I think the Ministry of Finance ought to cooperate. PIAC has many avenues. As I indicated already, per Section 44 of the Petroleum Revenue Management Act, the Auditor General is supposed to be the auditor of public funds, including allocations of petroleum revenue. They need to engage with the Auditor General and report this matter to them to take it up. Parliament is supposed to have oversight responsibility. They need to report the matter officially to Parliament, and perhaps Parliament will call the minister to answer. The reason is that PIAC, as it is, doesn't have that force to drag the ministry. So they can only work in collaboration.
But should a minister be dragged? PIAC is a statutory body. It's been set up by the Petroleum Revenue Management Act. It has a mandate. And so should anybody PIAC needs to work with necessarily have to wait to be dragged, so that if they don't have that powers to drag that person, then PIAC is unable to do its work?
It should be dragged. The reason why it should be dragged is the Ministry of Finance is the embodiment of effective public financial management. So
but shouldn't it be, what I mean is, shouldn't they be cooperating so that you don't resort to being summoned, dragged? That's my point.
Yeah, so long as they are not able to do that, if you are an embodiment of the implementation of public financial management in the country over a 4-month period, you are not willing to cooperate with the body. In fact, if you look at Petroleum Revenue Management Act, all the governance institutions set up within, the only institution that represents the public is the PIAC. So it means that you don't take the public seriously. So if you don't take the public seriously over a period of 4 months, and PIAC doesn't have extra powers, but can be anchored under the powers of Parliament, PIAC should do that, can be anchored under the powers of the Auditor General. PIAC should do that.
Very well. Very well, I get that. Now, Dr. Christopher White, another thing PIAC raised in respect of the judicious use of our public funds, besides the oil revenue. Professor Gachi, on this, you had some comments to make on that, yes?
Yeah, I think very good relationship between PIAC and the Ministry of Finance is very much required because the work that PIAC does helps to complement what the Ministry of Finance is supposed to be doing, especially when it comes to revenue side and utilization or disbursement of petroleum revenue. But a trend is developing that I think need to be corrected. You know, in 2017, the issue was not about 403 million. The issue was that per the Act, if you are going to pay your taxes, the corporate tax, you are supposed to pay directly into the Petroleum Holding Fund with Bank of Ghana and inform GRA. But there was a situation where one company paid some huge amount of money as part of their either surface rental or corporate tax to GRA account directly.
Instead of the Petroleum Holding Fund.
Instead of Petroleum. Right. And it was very difficult to
reverse
that transaction. And one was wondering why. Because you know that GRA is supposed to be given a target, and that will fit into their target.
Oh.
So, but at least for some time, it should be returned, but it was back and forth. And we also do know that GRA is directly under Ministry of Finance. So Ministry of Finance could have just triggered that, look,
send it back.
This is what the law says. So send the money back, and that find its way into the report, which shouldn't have been the case. And now we are dealing with the 403 million. So I think the Ministry of Finance should take interest in normalizing the relationship. Beyond that, I think we have basic problem with the implementation of the Petroleum Revenue Management Act. Why am I saying so? This act was put in place since 2011, but till date, we don't have an ally accompanying the Petroleum Revenue Management, and we are comfortable doing things. We have done.
It's been amended, though.
We have done a lot of amendment. In fact, the amendment alone make it very difficult to even read sometimes. So there is a need for, thorough review of the Petroleum Revenue Management Act itself. I'm saying this not only because of the amendment which were made in the past, but even adherence to some of the sections is becoming problematic. Why? If you look at 2017 budget, the government is supposed to present about 4 priority areas to be approved by Parliament, and that will run for 3 years. Now, in that approval, we have fiscal infrastructure in health, fiscal infrastructure in education, and others. But you will realize that a chunk of that money, we are now being told that is spent on free SHS. Nobody is against free SHS, but it's very difficult to see in the Act a provision in the Act that allow such a chunk of money to be spent on consumption. Because there is a provision in the Act.
Fiscal infrastructure.
Yeah, there is a provision in the Act that says that minimum of 70% of the ABFA should be spent on public investment expenditure. Clearly means that on the infrastructure deficit, which was anticipated at the time that the Act was put in place. So if we are minded that, look, our decision is that we should use petroleum revenue to finance free SHS, why not? We have opportunity. Let us review the law and accommodate that.
Right.
If not so,
We stick to it as it is.
Yes, yeah, we stick to it. If not, so somebody will say that, oh, you are not spending the Petroleum Revenue Management. You're not going according to the Petroleum Revenue Management Act, or you're not spending petroleum revenue well. And somebody will say, is it not being spent on free SHS? But that shouldn't be the discourse at this time.
It may be a good course, but is it in accordance with that? Which is what, and I believe this is the finance minister in his budgets has always had cause to complain about the rigidities in the system and how difficult it is to, move funds from here to here for certain projects. So no, Dr. Pesawa,
re-echo the point that this is about, relations between two institutions, and I think that it serves the public interest best if, sitting from where we are, we can see that the institution that represents we the citizens, which is PIAC, and of course the Ministry of Finance, which is not like an institution that is not representing the citizens, is equally there for the citizens. One is on the supply side, the other is on the demand side. If they are working very well and making sure that there is confidence in the system, then we don't have a problem. For me, the concern is even more serious because it is not good for the image of a government to get the impression in the public space that money is missing. It may not necessarily mean that the money has been stolen or misappropriated or mismanaged. It may well just mean that maybe, like I said, you took it to quickly sort something out. Maybe you are taking it to sort out free SHS or something, and now you are caught pants down. You probably need to find a better way of dealing with these kinds of things, because it is true. It is the same country. These are our public institutions. Ultimately, we want better services delivered. We want good governance. We want transparency. We want accountability. And I think we are all interested in this. But if these two institutions are more engaging and are more, they build trust among themselves, we wouldn't have gotten to where we are now. And they should be encouraged to do that.
Very well. Thank you for that. So quickly, time is just about 9:20 by my watch. Maybe it says something else on yours, but we'll be moving on to look at a poll that was conducted by a polling agency, iPoll Ghana. Since the 2016 American presidential elections, I've been very wary about polls, but we can't live without them. So we'll see. There's this one coming out by iPoll Ghana, like I said, that says that majority of respondents in that survey conducted want the Kufuor-led administration to focus on the economy. And there's also a portion of people, about 54% believe there should be more focus on the economy. Like I said, 21% said education should be the government's priority. We're looking at this feedback coming from the respondents. I'm not sure exactly how many people were took part in the survey, but at least I want to believe that this is representative of the country and all. What does it say to you, Professor Gachi, when people are saying that the government should focus on the economy? Is it to say that, well, people are of opinion that perhaps government isn't doing exactly well with the economy, or what? Because we know the macro indicators, constantly we're being told that the macro indicators are good.
Good. See, I look at the economy to include all those things that you were talking about: health, education, all the sectors. Yeah, the economy.
Part of the economy.
Our well-being is part of the economy. People are now talking about happiness index.
And Ahunchire index.
So that is the economy. But perhaps it seems to me that those who responded to the questionnaire were actually referring to macroeconomic indicators.
Yep.
Because, in my opinion, education is an integral part of the economy. So we cannot leave it out. In fact, our investment in education, health, agri, etc., they translate into the macroeconomic indicators we're talking about. So we can't focus on the macroeconomic indicators. They are not the best. It has improved. We have seen reduction in the policy rate from 26% to 17%. It has not yet translated fully into reduced lending rate that is of concern to businesses.
Sure.
Access to credit is actually shrinking. We need to concentrate on that. The general competitive environment is weakening. We need to work assiduously to improve the macro environment.
Right.
So for me, that is key. But we shouldn't misconstrue that to mean that education is separate from the economy.
So it's part of it.
Yes.
You can't take one out
Yes.
and leave that out.
Yeah.
But it's interesting you're saying that you would think that the feedback from the respondents is in the area of the macroeconomics. Isn't it interesting that they will be focusing on the macroeconomics as opposed to the micro?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That when they mean the economy, they are talking about their livelihood, because you separated education from the economy.
Yes.
That's why I have some problem for it.
Right.
Clearly, you could see that people have problem with how these macroeconomic indicators actually fit into their livelihood.
Exactly.
So people are talking about suffering, which is a reality.
It's a reality?
Yeah.
Okay.
Recently, we have had to sacrifice. Of course, you sacrifice for every government. We were told that if you are driving a car beyond a certain capacity,
You are in trouble.
you're in trouble.
But Prof, that cannot be something. Driving a V8 and paying extra cannot be something.
Some of these people were paying for the renewal about 400 Ghana. All of a sudden, it jumped to 1,005. That is a huge, sacrifice and contribution.
Right.
Cumulatively, price development in the country is not the best. Recently, we talked about the effect of exchange rate volatility. So those things need to be worked on, especially the exchange rate volatility.
Yeah.
It connects to a lot of economic activities in the country. And if it is not handled well, it creates much more problem.
Yes.
So
I mean, for as long as we remain an input-driven economy.
Yeah.
That would
Yesterday I
definitely be an
saw a business news item where we have become a major importer of onion from Niger. So we need to repackage even our agric. Our agric is not responding to the need of the economy. We need to work assiduously to do that, because I think we have space. We have what it takes to produce onion, for example, tomatoes, around the year, to feed us, and if necessary, to feed into our processing plant that we have envisaged under one district, one factory, etc.
Like planting for food and jobs, for instance, because definitely.
Planting for food and jobs. We need to improve on that.
Okay, well.
Yeah.
Competitive monopoly.
That's exactly. So, did we go or did we come, as it were?
We went.
Well, yeah, because we don't have time, let me focus on the current issue. Yeah, it is true that they have a kind of a chamber that do things in their interest, and it is also good that they've been able to inform the public ahead of time before implementing the effect of the changes in the tax laws. But even though they're supposed to foster the interests of members of the group, we need to look at the factors driving this change.
Right.
So it's not as if because they form a chamber, they are doing something untoward. We all do know that a consumption tax like VAT, business entities are only conduit to or agents to transfer whatever they collect to government. So I think in this case we cannot fault them. We can talk about the efficient delivery of their services. We can talk about pricing without the influence of VAT. We can discuss those matters. We can discuss matters relating to what the GIPC law gives them to, transfer their proceeds out of the country and the effect on the economy. We can discuss those ones. But in this particular case, government wants money. And government knows that when you bring standard VAT together with a flat rate, the flat rate will actually increase the amount of revenue they will get, and that will have to be transferred to the consumers. And that is what we are experiencing
Very
or we
well.
are going to experience.
Very well. Thank you, Prof. Unfortunately, I need to move on quickly because we've run out of time, literally. Dr. Pesawat,
Yes.
in 1 minute,
Yes,
please.
thank you. Thank you.
Sorry for that. The next time you come, I'll give you more time.
No problem at all. I think that, Prof. Gachi really echoed my view. My concern is about the competitive monopoly bits. We really need to be concerned about that because this whole idea about free market and liberalization is for companies to be able to analyze the economic circumstances, see how they can adjust and still be in business. Now, what we have is that almost all the service providers have come together and they say we are applying, this percentage of increase. So it's more like we have come back to Ghana Telecom alone, and so they can charge whatever they want. I think that for me is problematic.
It's very important.
And we need to also be thinking about the cascading effect.
True.
That's true.
True.
That's true.
Data cost, the effect on professional
Of course,
service
even on money
providers.
transfer.
Very well.
Yeah.
Very well. Unfortunately, this is where we come to a close on the conversations this morning. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you to the panelists, Dr. Michael Pesawat, Professor John Gachi, and Eric Chum. We'll be back same time next week. Do have yourself a very productive weekend. Bye-bye. And Eric Chum. We'll be back same time next week. Do have yourself a very productive weekend. Bye-bye.
Onia TV di this Sunday, Ayakwesi Day, Onia TV Bro District Colonial Court. Ewa TV3 so. Sewokai District Colonial Court.
I need some order here. Orderly. Order.
Kwakwe, Mr. Beautiful. Enisa Obronino. Wo besrisa.
Fancy saying, if your child toilet for your leg cup, you don't cut it away with knife.
This Sunday, Ayakwesi Day. Ewa TV3 so.
Oh dear. I love Africa.
So District Colonial Court, Onia TV. Hey, Aya TV3 Nuya Ankasa.
In 2013, we shaped the course of national policy with compelling stories on education and health. In 2016, we provided the platform for political parties and the socially excluded to engage on issues of national concern. TV3 Mission is back with a bang. We navigate the turbulent terrain of deprived and hard-to-reach communities.
To one message for person access to teaching,
empowering women to
they provide about.
We focus our sharp lenses on the health and educational needs of the socially excluded to influence policy interventions that promote inclusiveness.
and it tells you how serious
Will get you result. Mission Ghana, live on News 360. Mission is supported by Star Ghana with funding from Danida, DFID, and the European Union.
The business world can be very dark and confusing, but with the right information from the experts, things get clearer.
There is smuggling, and that is why they are buying certain products at the price that they are buying them now.
But then you don't add another cost of doing business onto production line and onto businessmen.
And it even gets inspirational when we also hear the success stories of colleague entrepreneurs.
If you do the market segmentation, you realize that although there are a lot of courier companies, but specific segments are not saturated.
Business Focus makes the business world less confusing and more inspiring.
For priceless information about business and the economy, watch Business Focus on Mondays at 6 p.m. only on TV3.
Business Focus, inspiring business and economic growth.
It's all about Pink Bubbles. Meet your sleek 2018 GMB contestants at the Accra Mall on Saturday, 27th October 2018 from 10 a.m. as they wash and pamper your cars to create awareness about breast cancer. Pink Bubbles is brought to you by the 3 Foundation in partnership with the Breast Care Unit of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, supported by IA Trends Mobile Car Wash and Valet Services and the Accra Mall.
Our winner and the most talented kid for 2018 goes to, ladies and gents, it's Samuel Owusu.
This year, TV3 screws up the